Hello, I'm Fatbart, the Chief Cloud Architect here at ITirana, and today I will show you how our cloud platform works. Let's get started.
So, this is the login screen, and from here you can log in with your credentials. For these demo purposes, we will log in with the demo account. From this page we can see all the resources that we have at our disposal. For example, in here we can see the total number of instances that we can create. In here we can see the number of virtual CPUs that we could use, the amount of RAM, how many floating IPs or public IPs we could use, how many security groups, how many volumes, and in here we can see the space that we can use to create our volumes. To create a virtual machine, first we need to have a private network setup, and to do so we go to Network topology, and we see that in here we have only the public network. Now we need to hit create network, and here we have to give it a name. In this case it could be something like my network. We hit next. Subnet name could be something like my subnet. Network address could be something like 192.168.30.0/24. IP version will be IPv4, and the gateway we can leave it empty as it will automatically take the first IP in the range. Then we hit next. In here we have to check the enable DHCP option, and in here we can enter our allocation pool for the DHCP to give the IP addresses. At the allocation pool we have to specify the range that DHCP server could automatically distribute to our virtual machines. It could be something like 192.168.30.10, 192.168.30.200. To DNS name servers, we have to specify the DNS IP addresses. In order for our virtual machines to be able to serve the internet, we have to specify at least one DNS name server. In this case, we will use our DNS server, which is 109.104.136.83, and we could also type a second DNS server as well. We could use the Google public DNS, for example, 8.8.8.8. Host routes we could leave it empty and hit create. Now we see that our private network has been created. In order for our virtual machines to be able to go to internet, we also need a virtual router. And to do so, we hit the create router button. In here we need to specify a router name, and in this case it could be something like my router. Admin state will be up. External network will be public network, and we hit create router. We see that our router has been created and connected to our public network. In order to connect it to our private network, we have to move our mouse over to the router and click. Then click add interface. From the subnet we have to select our network and hit add interface. We now see that our public network has been created to our private network through the virtual router that we created. Now we need to create a public key in order to be able to access our virtual machines. We go to Compute, Access and Security, Key Pairs, and we click Create Key Pair. To key pair name, we can type in a name that makes sense to us. For example, Linux key pair, as the key pairs are necessary only for Linux virtual machines. And then we click create key pair. We see that the key pair that we created has been automatically downloaded to our computer. We will need this one later when we create our first virtual machine. Now we are ready to create our virtual machine. We go to Instances. We click Launch Instance. For example, we want to create a Linux virtual machine. To instance name, it can be something like Linux Ubuntu. To the flavor, we could choose Demo Linux, and we see in here that this will allocate one virtual CPU, 10 GB of hard disk, and 1 GB of RAM to our virtual machine. Instance count will be 1, as we will create only one virtual machine. Boot source will be boot from image. Image name will be Ubuntu server. And we click Access and Security. We make sure that our key pair that we created earlier has been selected, and we also check the security groups. Then we move over to networking and we make sure that the correct network has been selected. Now we click Launch. We see that our virtual machine is being created. In order to be able to access our virtual machine, we need to allocate a floating IP to it. To do so, we click the down arrow button and we go to Associate Floating IP. We click the plus button and we click Allocate IP. We see that we have received a floating IP from the pool. We click Associate. We refresh the page. And now we see that our virtual machine has a floating IP as well. To check if we are able to reach to our virtual machine, it could be as simple as pinging the floating IP address. To do so, we can do that from command prompt. We type in ping and the IP address. We see that we are not able to ping our virtual machine. This is because we need to create some rules at our virtual firewall. To do so, we go to Access and Security, Security Groups, and then we click Manage Rules. From here we can click Add Rule, and to allow ping to the rule section, we need to choose all ICMP. Direction will be ingress, then we click Add. Once again we click Add Rule. Rule will be again all ICMP. Direction this time will be egress. And we click Add. Now we see that we are able to ping our virtual machine. But in order to be able to access it, a Linux virtual machine can be accessed by SSH. So we need to create a firewall rule for that one also. We click again Add Rule. To the rules, we scroll all the way to the bottom and we check SSH. And click Add. Now we see that a rule for SSH has been created as well. To be able to access a Linux virtual machine from Windows, we need to have a program called PuTTY. But first we need to convert our public key to a private key so that PuTTY could use it. And to do so, we could use PuTTYGAN. Once we have PuTTYGAN running, we can click Load. Now we need to navigate to where we saved our key. In this case is Documents, Key. We need to check all files, and now we choose the key and click Open. We click OK, and we see that our public key has been loaded. Now we need to save it as a private key, and to do so we click Save Private Key. click yes, and at the same location we could type in Linux key pair and click save. Once we do that, we could close PuTTY again and open up PuTTY. To SSH, go to authentication, we click browse. We navigate to where we saved our key, then choose the key, then we scroll back to session, and the username for an Ubuntu virtual machine will always be Ubuntu. Add the IP address of the virtual machine, and in our case is 109.104.134.71. Then we click open. We need to accept the security alert. Now we see that we are logged in at our virtual machine, and from here we could install the programs that we intend to use. We could also create a Windows virtual machine, and it will be similar as creating a Linux virtual machine. We go back to instances, we click launch instance. Instance name will be Windows Server 2012 R2. This time the flavor will be demo Windows, and we see that we have some changes. Root disk will be 20 GB as Windows requires more space. RAM will be 2 GB. Virtual CPUs will be 1 GB, same as before. Instance count will be 1, as we want to create only one virtual machine. Boot source, it could be boot from image. Image name will be Windows Server 2012 R2. We go to access and security. We check the security group. We go to networking to make sure that the current network has been selected. Then we click launch. We see that our Windows virtual machine has been created, and it already have a private IP address. We need to allocate a floating IP address to this one as well. So once again we click the down arrow button and we hit associate floating IP. We need to click the plus sign button again and allocate IP. We see that we have another public IP allocated, and we assign this public IP to our Windows server and we hit associate. We refresh the page again and we see that our Windows virtual machine has 2 IP addresses as well. To access a Windows virtual machine, we could do that by using remote desktop. But first we need to allow the RDP port in our firewall. To do so, we go to access and security, security groups, manage rules, add a rule. To the rule, we select RDP and click add. We go back to instances, and now we could launch a remote desktop. First, we need to set up our Windows virtual machine by assigning a password. To do that, we click the down arrow button and we go to console. We could open our virtual machine to a new tab so that we could see it clearly. We hit OK. Now we need to create a new password. we see that our virtual machine is ready. We could also access our virtual machine through RDP. And to do so, we need to open the remote desktop application. To computer, we can type in the IP address of our virtual machine, which is 109.104.134.72. We click connect. Username is administrator and the password is the password that we created earlier. Then we click OK. We accept the certificate. Now we see that we are logged into our virtual machine. And from here we could install all the necessary programs that we want to work with. So this was a guide on how to use our cloud platform. Thank you.